I'm Frank Vaughn. It's November 14th, 2025, and I'm in an absolutely foul mood. This is not the intro that I was planning on doing, but it's the intro you're going to get. Hunting season is upon us, and people might not realize how much hunters actually care about nature. It's an interesting thing. It's something that until I experienced it, I didn't know could happen, that you could on the one hand shoot and carve up an animal, and at the same time find them absolutely beautiful and concern yourself with their welfare with every fiber of your being. Now, there's hunters who hunt with tags, and there's poachers out there who don't hunt with tags, but at least they take the animal. They're risking everything to poach. You shouldn't poach, but at least they take the animal and they intend to eat it. But the absolute gutter trash scumbags who would shoot a 4-point buck and just leave it in a field for the carrion crows and the eagles to eat. You are scumbags on a par with murderers and people who do really bad things with children. And the reason I'm on about this morning is this very thing happened nearby within the last day or two. And I am pissed. I am so pissed that somebody would shoot a 4-point buck. It takes nature so long to produce these animals. It takes years to get to this point for some moron, some loser, to shoot it and just leave it in the field to rot. It's the worst thing. I hope they find the guy, and I hope they take every single thing he has. For people who don't hunt, for people who don't subsist off the land in some way, you may not understand how much hunters actually love the environment, how much we value the herd, how much it means to us, and probably more than anybody else, how much it offends us when something nature produces gets wasted in this way. We're not the demons that you might think we are, all the city dwellers who are anti-hunter and think that nothing should ever get shot and die, that are in complete denial of nature and the fact of the matter that no matter what you eat, whether you're eating vegetables, whether you're eating animals, you're consuming life. I often say that just because a vegetable doesn't scream when you cut it off a plant in the way that you're used to, just because it doesn't have eyes that you're looking into, doesn't mean that it detects the end is nigh. To survive and to exist on this planet by design requires the sacrifice of other life to sustain it, all through nature. It's just the way it is. But there's something so deeply anti-spiritual about somebody with a firearm shooting a completely defenseless animal with no purpose whatsoever. It's so repugnant. There are a few things in life that activate my inner authoritarian. This is one of them. And one of the reasons why is because hunters, the guys doing it right, the people who have their tags, the ones that are hunting and valuing what it is they're harvesting from nature, are also the same who take flack from the people in the cities who have no idea whatsoever what this culture is all about, because of people both sides of the argument would find absolutely morally abhorrent. This sort of behavior is condemned by everybody, but it's hunters who take the flack for it. It's just so disgusting to me. And we're going to move on to what I really need to talk about today. And this is the issue of Jeff Epstein, Ghislaine Maxwell, the full court press that came out of the mainstream media. Again, I mean, my YouTube feed, like, I know what I watch on YouTube. An interesting thing is I phoned my wife. She's not at home right now. I phoned her to talk to her about this deer that was shot on my phone. And all of a sudden, my feed is full of deer because I have YouTube Studio on my phone. It's always listening. It's just like Facebook. It's always listening. It's keyword listening. It's not to say they're recording everything you say. It's listening for keywords, and then it's tailoring the user experience. It's kind of spooky, which is why I say if you want privacy, you have to create it. You have to get the devices out of the room or out of your life. If you want to have privacy, you create it in a space because you don't have it by default. Every single device that has these apps on it is pretty much listening all the time when the device is active. But I digress. This full court media press about the revelations, the Democrats' revelations about Donald Trump being implicated with Epstein yet again. Now, look, before I get into it, I just want you to understand that this is a bipartisan issue. This is not partisanship. I think we need more critical examination and a quest, a calling towards the truth that doesn't fall along party lines. And people are always trying to slot me into being a commie or a liberal or being a conservative or a cuck for the Republican Party, or that I'm vulgar things. You'll probably see some of them in this video. Whenever you opine one way or the other, and really I'm trying to find the truth. I'm trying to steer the ship down the narrow middle. So in an effort to do that, let me just say quickly, when it comes to Donald Trump, there's many things about the Trump administration since he was reelected that I am highly skeptical of. One of them is the Epstein cover-up, and we'll get into that a little bit, how it just disappeared off the radar and how we were all gaslit because we wanted answers. There's also the lack of curiosity from the administration, not all of it. Tulsi Gabbard at the DNI, and there's other people in the administration who are looking at the Charlie Kirk murder with a very critical eye. And I don't know if I want to get too distracted down that rabbit hole, but the fact of the matter is, the official story doesn't make any sense. No 30-06 in the world, speaking of hunting, would ever be stopped by flesh or even a spinal column. Even shot straight down through a spinal column, it should be exploding vertebrae all the way down. There's something not right about it. And there's such an intense demonization campaign against the likes of, for various reasons, but Tucker Carlson, Ian Carroll, George Webb, Candace Owens, etc., who, I mean, every time, for instance, Candace Owens has been accused of lying about the entire Charlie Kirk thing, she constantly produces the receipts, and nobody gives her the credit for that. I mean, the fact that Charlie Kirk was moving away from his his dedication to Zionism and the Israeli cause, he was leaving it, and they lie about that. Ever since he died, there's been this really horrible push from Christian Zionists to seize the legacy of Charlie Kirk when they know, and they've lied about it, and we know that they've lied about it, that he was moving away from his unconditionally pro-Israeli stance because as a Christian man and as a moral man, especially as a moral man with children, he couldn't in good conscience ignore the tens of thousands of children that have been murdered in Gaza. That's just a thing. And when it comes to Donald Trump, there's the Ukraine war is not ended. I don't want to get too deep in the weeds here. I have issues with the Trump administration, and I think that's pretty clear from my work that there's various things that make me, like, we're not getting the full truth about Thomas Crooks. We're not getting the fully transparent administration that was promised. The Fort Knox audit disappeared. He's talking about now adding 600,000 Chinese students to the United States. I'll actually just throw that article up on the screen quick. I mean, since we're here right now, and I will shrink myself down. Trump let in 600,000 Chinese students to prop up universities. Now, there's an ongoing reevaluation and rebalancing of factors between the China and the United States. The Americans need some things for the time being that the Chinese produce, rare earth minerals being one of them. And in return, and they want the fentanyl supply to be dried up, and so they're finagling this negotiation as peer partners. Trump recently referred to China and the United States as the G2. He is signaling his willingness to recognize that China is a peer partner and a peer competitor, and that in this world where there's this readjustment, where there's BRICS, where there's this hoarding of gold and silver, like I've been talking on my channel, that there's this rebalancing of forces, and it's not ready to leap into the next phase yet. The U.S. dollar still has some time to go, and I don't think it's got much longer to go as the world's reserve currency, but nobody's ready to pull the trigger yet, which means they all have to get along somewhat. And so letting in 600,000 Chinese students to harvest the brain trust of the United States and then take it back to China to keep building China, on the surface, looks like a complete abandonment of the commitment to renegotiate the relationship between China and the United States. But it also might be something that they have demanded in return for some of the things that the United States needs. So there's a lot going on here. And then there was Peter Hegseth announced the formal name of the operation that's about to take place in the Caribbean Sea with the USS Gerald Ford and a bunch of military assets at great expense to the American taxpayer, gathering in the Caribbean right now with the objective of taking out cartels. And I actually believe that there's a significant truth to the fact that this president wants to clean up the drug problem. He's very anti-drug, and he has been for decades and decades, his entire life. Told his kids, no drugs, no smoking. And there was one other thing. Might have been no gambling. All sound advice for your children. And in a world where billionaires raise losers consistently, like raise miserable children that have all kinds of mental problems. You see, money can't make you happy, and it can't make you stable. There's a certain amount of money that can alleviate poverty, and that will greatly improve your well-being. But it's actually the children of billionaires and the rich who have the greatest problems mentally. Like, there's a higher percentage problem. There's higher suicides. There's a purposelessness of life. In the midst of that, and I don't want to get too deep in the weeds trying to put meat on those bones, just, I guess, do the research yourself, accept that what I'm saying is true, because it is. This man managed to raise several children who don't have any of those problems. So I believe, because of the evidence that we have, that he is very genuine in his desire, and the people around him are very genuine in their desire to actually break the back of the cartel mechanism. They talk about the deep state. They talk about the things that have been undermining the United States. They talk about the swamp. And one of the deepest parts of the swamp is the human trafficking and the drug empires that often are used to funnel money into some of these black projects, which undermine the American people for nefarious purposes. I believe there's a genuine urgency to clean it up. And I think part of that urgency, too, is because of the Epstein stuff, because of some of the questions that I've raised about Trump in the past, some of the issues, there's a bit of a softness to the Republicans going into the midterms, and I am very deeply concerned that the wheels are going to come off the economy in the first and second quarter of 2026. There's a credit crunch building. There's signs, and there's warning signs all over the place that these economies are already in recession. Not just Canada, the United States. China's deep in the red. Nobody's going to be missed by this. There's very few economies in the world that have much to stand on at this point. And I worry that the wheels are going to come off right before the midterms, and this whole project might be disrupted, which could explain their urgency. I believe the Trump administration is sincere in its desire to get the illegal immigration problem under control, to kick out the criminals, to actually change things domestically, which will be for the benefit and for the well-being of the American people. I actually think he cares about the American people. But there's this other side to it. There's this Epstein cover-up, which bleeds into something else, which seems to demonstrate that Trump is an unmitigated Zionist, and he's willing to cover up what Mossad and what the CIA have been up to, at least at a certain level. And that's a criticism I have. Now, getting back to the point, this full court media press with this nothing burger Democrat release that came out, and it's a nothing burger because the redacted name is Virginia, and I might get a pronunciation wrong, and I'm sorry, Virginia Giuffre. The allegations themselves about the connection with Trump and that Epstein gave him girlfriends and had all these pictures and that he was undermined. We are at this point, this could change. I'm not saying Trump wasn't involved with Epstein. There's an association there, but there's also a demonstrated recording separation. When Maxwell was recruiting girls at Mar-a-Lago, Trump banned him. And the fact is, they're using these allegations. We're relying on Jeffrey Epstein's word to assess guilt to Donald Trump right away, when we have these other countervailing evidence pieces that show that Trump found him to be a disgusting individual and kicked him out and stopped associating with him, especially after the conviction of Jeff Epstein. This is important stuff. I'm not saying, and I want you to stick with me, if you're an anti-Trump person and somehow you've made it this far, I want you to stick with me, because I got questions about Trump too. And I'm not against him being implicated and him being involved. I'm not against it. I want to see the evidence. The point I'm trying to make is the media and the left online have jumped right back to Trump is a person who offends children. I don't want to say the magic word because then you get algorithm. I try every single video to avoid the algorithmic holes. And generally speaking, I fail because I would rather just speak what I'm thinking. I'm not saying anything that, isn't available in a dictionary. I'm not saying any subjects that you can't buy books about. I'm not advocating for those things, but there's certain keywords. That's just the way YouTube is designed. I want to find out the truth about everybody. I want to find out the truth about the Clintons. I want to find out the truth about Donald Trump. I want to find out the truth about everybody. And the fact is, the name that was redacted is this name on the screen. And the Republicans basically dissolved and dissipated the whole thing by pointing all of this out, but there's no corrective action. We had a full court, full page press, Global News, CTV, everybody was covering it, but we don't quite get the we don't get the in-depth coverage that actually says that it was a nothing burger. But again, to just give you some of the other side, Don Jr. Stokes, Virginia Giuffre murder conspiracies, because he retweeted she posted a message in 2019 saying she feared evil people would stage her suicide to silence her. All right, I just said one of the keywords. For crying out loud. I guess it's over. We're in an algorithmic hole. Welcome to the hole. And the fact of the matter is, she also tweeted that she would never do such a thing. And then, of course, she died. And even though we still don't have an autopsy or an official coroner's report to this day, they say there was no foul play involved and it was a self-inflicted death. I don't know why I'm trying to avoid using the word at this point. We've already botched it. She feared evil people. Don Jr. retweeted this. Don Jr. during the election was a big champion of this truth, getting to the truth about Epstein. And then I think Daddy told him to shut up. And I think it has to do with intelligence operations. It has to do with intelligence assets. And it might have to do with Trump himself being undermined or implicated in such a way that he would have to dedicate so much of his time to defending himself against false allegations that he just doesn't want to do it. I don't know. And I don't mind saying I don't know. What I'm trying to point out right here is that the media and the leftist bots online, they don't say that they don't know. They rush to condemn Donald Trump right out the gate. But they completely lack any curiosity when it comes to Mark Carney and his wife and their associations with Ghislaine Maxwell. There are few things in the world that bring out the bots more than talking about the Ukraine war or talking about Mark Carney and the liberal government record in general. But I'll tell you, did I ever trip over a hornet's nest of bot swarms? And I don't think they're all bots. I think it's probably 60, 70, 80% bots and 20% real people who think the bots are real and copy their behavior, which is what I think the game is. All the toxic waste that you're about to see, all the toxic responses, I think most of it is driven by bots, and I think there are people who actually copy it, and it is worsening the human condition. People are becoming far more toxic as a result of the influence of bots that are programmed by real people. So whether or not it's a bot you're talking to or a real person that's cursing and swearing at you and calling you names and casting aspersions and making all of these implications about your motives and assuming intent and all the bad things that people do to get out of logical conversations, there's someone programming bots to do that to people, and people are actually doing it. It's literally worsening the human condition. But probably the biggest hornet's nest I've ever hit on X, or at least on X in the last year since I started making videos again, is the one that I hit in the last couple of days. Now, this is the original tweet. Why are Canadians constantly tweeting about Trump and Epstein? Not the least bit curious about the publicized friendship of Carney and Epstein Maxwell. Now, maybe I shouldn't use the word friendship. Maybe I should have used the word association. But I think considering the backdrop that Diana Fox Carney and her sister went to school with Ghislaine Maxwell, that Ghislaine Maxwell and Diana Fox Carney's sister, very good friends, very close associations, that the real pictures, they're not AI generated, folks, the real pictures we have of Mark Carney and his wife socializing with Ghislaine Maxwell, which, and this is really important, these are real images at a social event. The property on which they were gathered were Diana Fox Carney's sister. That was the property that they're standing on, and it was post-Epstein conviction, folks. Post-Epstein conviction. I can tell you one thing. If I had a friend, or even an acquaintance, an associate, whatever word you want to use, that was married to somebody convicted for the things that Epstein was convicted to, and that person remained married to that person in spite of their guilt, in spite of their open guilt, in spite of the entire thing, I can guarantee you if they stayed married, I would never talk to them again because that's just who I am. But at any rate, politicized friendship of Carney and Epstein Maxwell. Publicized, rather. Are we that divorced from honesty? Is the partisanship really that deep? 3 questions. Where's the curiosity? Why is the partisanship so deep? And the whole reason I'm bringing it up is because the full court press from the media and the full court press from the Orange Man Bad crowd, which they are willing to jump straight to Trump's guilt. Now, by the way, that redacted name of Virginia Giuffre, sorry if I got it wrong, the redacted name, she exonerated Trump long before her so-called self-deletion, we'll call it. Maybe that's what I need to do. I need to develop a word, self-deletion. I think that's what we're going to use from now on. Now, I don't know if she was self-deleted or not. I'm not trying to say that. I'm just saying there are those who are looking at her book, which was released on the 25th, and say, can we believe anything in the book because it's released posthumously? There were many issues that the family had with the book, which actually resulted in edits. And I don't want to get down that rabbit hole. I'm actually contemplating buying the book and reading it and maybe reporting on it here. But the fact of the matter is, her words long before her so-called self-deletion exonerated Trump. That's it. So the Democrats are relying on Jeffrey and his word alone to condemn Trump. So's the Canadian media. So's the Canadian left. They're willing to condemn him. But when it comes to the known associations of our parachuted in prime minister, this man who has been out of Canada for a decade, hasn't even identified as Canadian, identifies as European. This man who's run 2 central banks, worked at Goldman Sachs, has been in the know. There's another tweet before we actually get into the responses and the bot spam. This one. Carney and Prince Andrew have a long association. Now, Prince Andrew, he got caught red-handed. This is like not quite Jimmy Savile levels, but there's all kinds of people who are associated with the royal family who end up in the same boat as Prince Andrew. Carney and Prince Andrew have a long association, even having a private Buckingham Palace dinner after Epstein's conviction. Now, Carney's brother works for the royal family. There's a relationship here. Maybe the word friendship is the wrong thing to say, but there's a relationship. None of this proves that the Carneys are guilty in anything. I merely brought up the fact that there's a decided lack of curiosity about ongoing known associations, post-Epstein conviction, associations with Andrew, and we know what went on there. His sister-in-law dated Andrew in the 80s and is lifelong friends with Maxwell. Carney comfortably hobnobbed with Maxwell in 2013. Is anyone curious? Now, there's engagement on this, but again, so this. We'll start going through the comments on both of these just so you understand what the problem is here. A private dinner, rein yourself in. Your vices seem out of control. Reference to my bio where I say control your vices. And I just respond, it's true, though. It's literally verifiably true. Now, what's her response? The dinner wasn't open to the general public, but it wasn't just 2 of them. It was attended by others from the financial industry. Doesn't take away from anything I'm saying. I mean, Carney's in there. He's got a long relationship with the crown and the royal family and the city of London and all of these people. And again, post-conviction, they're happy to sit and have long conversations with Maxwell. TLW says if there's any legitimate story here, Pierre and his attack dogs would be all over it. They're not. It's nothing burger. And I said, hardly. The CPC isn't known for their courage. They're not. Again, this is a nonpartisan channel. I don't have a partisan axe to grind. There's no political party that I'm loyal to. There's no political ideology. I'm not on the right or left. I think they're all full of shit. Pardon my French. But that's my opinion. And I don't think the conservatives would run with this unless they had proof, and nobody seems to want to even ask questions. That's really all I'm trying to highlight right now. Total lack of curiosity about these associations from the mainstream media, from the opposition, from many voices in the alternative media. There's a lack of curiosity at the exact same time that everybody's rushing to condemn Trump on stuff we already knew, with a redacted name from a woman who cleared him. relying entirely on Epstein's word for that condemnation. And again, just to reiterate, I'm not saying Trump isn't implicated. I want the evidence. I want the answers. Trump and his team, and even his family at this point, are opposing those answers, and I think it's covering for intelligence operations, but I don't know. I want to learn. It's a problem for me. Vancouver twerp, conspiracy believer, you have no proof with your defamations. I said everything I've stated is verified. Everything here is verified. These are facts. And like you'll see on the other one that the implication is that I said things that I did not say when I'm just asking questions. It's pretty crazy. I have no proof with my defamations. There's no defamation here. There's questions based on factual associations. Where's the defamation? I have friends everywhere. Nothing in this post is true. Now remember what we're trying to show a pattern of behavior. Vancouver twerp is not a verified account. It's just a random account. Could be anybody. Some of these people put names, but I mean, you'll see the same pattern. You'll see cat pictures and PFPs. You'll see dog pictures. And the bios will be filled like this. Avid Premier League football fan, someone interested in politics from a centrist perspective, very skeptical of politicians of all kind, Winnipeg area born. This guy could be real. He could not be real. There's a good chance he actually might be real. But like I have friends everywhere. These are anons. They come out in droves, like hundreds of anons. Some of them are real. Most of them are bots. I'm convinced of that. And they only come out when you approach certain subjects and your tweets get visibility. Your posts are actually getting visible. This guy says, nothing in this post is true. Whatever is wrong with you, get help. It's not healthy lying this much unless paid by the CPC or MAGA to spread the lies you tell. As if anything I've said here in this video is aligned with the Conservative Party or MAGA. MAGA is literally working against the truth that I want. And the CPC won't even talk about it. At least MAGA has a position. And, if you read, first off, you're outsourcing, once again, he's outsourcing the determination of truth to Grok, but Grok aligns with everything I'm saying. And if you read the response, it actually backs up what I'm talking about. And I highlight that. Actually, your AI outsourcing confirmed 2 of the 3 things while calling the remaining thing a gray area, an interpretive area. Why do you do this to yourself? Chris Zimmerman, nope, not in the slightest. Again, not a verified account. Vitamin C says don't care, and I said that much is obvious. Greg says keep grasping. At least Greg is real. And I said, why aren't you, like, he's got his Ukraine flag. It's like, why aren't you volunteering? The Ukrainian front is collapsing in real time right now. This is one of the most important issues that nobody in the mainstream media is talking about. Yesterday, the Russians captured 25.7 square kilometers of land. The day before, it was another 50. The Zaporizhia region, the area around Pokrovsk, the ongoing encirclement of Mirnograd. I think it's Mirnograd. I might have that name wrong. I'm not Eastern European. I'm very good in English. I'm not very good in any other language with proper pronunciations. Ukraine's in a bad boat and Russia's on the march. They're breaking through. Things are happening in Ukraine. And I'm telling you, Greg, they need volunteers. The Zelensky regime, which is what it is, needs bodies to go to the front and die uselessly. That's what they need most. And I don't want you to go over there, but I mean, you're everybody with a Ukraine flag. You're all signaling, but I don't see you volunteering, which is what Ukraine needs more than anything. Oliver says, BS. Frank is an effing liar. Just saying. I said you should swear more. It's helping. Again, I'm pretty sure these are bots. These ones that just start swearing. Daphne Moon, OF off. Well said. Freedom Convoy is a national disgrace. The sequel, since Elon zapped the OG, go to Blue Sky, everybody. How's that worked out? Who the F is going to donate to your lazy butt? Get a job, you incel loser. No woman wants a man who grifts and creates content on the internet. This is the male version of prostitution. Stop working yourself out. Conservatives are broke. And I said, you have no idea how stupid you sound. But then again, you aren't real. I'm pretty sure the account's not real. I mean, it's got some engagement. And that's what scares me. It's the engagement. Is it bot engagement or is it real people who actually identify with this level? Like my children have more class than this. Like I teach them to interact with the world on a much better basis. I deal with this every single day as any influencer does. And I try to constantly give better. I feel bad every time I call somebody a dummy or an idiot or I use words like that. I really try to avoid it. Sometimes it slips through, but it is mild in comparison to what I get. I always give better than I get. And the fact of the matter is, this whole incel loser, I am not involuntarily celibate by any stretch of the imagination. I've never been. I've successfully procreated. I've managed to keep my wife happy for 19 years. I mean, things are going pretty good for me, so this isn't true. I don't live in my mom's basement. And again, the definition of grift. Where's the grift? What am I promising you? What product am I selling you? What barrier am I putting up to entry? Where's my newsletter? Where's my Substack? Where's anything that could even... I'm not saying people with Substacks or people with subscription services are grifting. I'm not saying that at all. This idea that no woman wants a man that's on the internet producing content, well, clearly at least one does. And there's a lot of influencers out there that don't seem to have problems in that department. This is modern media, folks. We do the job better than the mainstream media. That's why it's growing. The model that I've adapted is as far from the definition of grift as you can possibly get. There's no barrier to entry. There's no advertising. There's no promotion. There's no sponsorships. There's no nothing. I've got a donate link, and I barely ever shill the thing. And when I shill the donate link, it's at the end of the video, which the vast majority of people never get to. So it's all of this lowbrow, knuckle-dragging insults and invective whenever you say something important, and it's mostly coming from bots. Anyway, we are going to go to the other tweet. Now, we're back to the original tweet. Now, keep in mind that all I'm asking about here is the absolute lack of curiosity in the face of monumental condemnation of Trump, the absolute lack of curiosity on the part of this parachuted in prime minister that we now have, that we are saddled with, which is, by the way, approving energy projects which directly benefit Brookfield, something that he probably has a lot of stock holdings in. The conflicts of interest are off the charts, and to the Conservative Party's credit, they've talked about that. But Canada's being prepared to be looted. That's what it looks like. We're under management, and there are so many people. It's not just bots. There's boomers everywhere. And when I say boomers, I shouldn't even say it. I shouldn't even say it like that. But there's a lot of people. There's a whole lot of people who are buying into all the mythologies of this government. And all of a sudden, the very people who have been railing, and I know this, I've seen it in my own family, on their posts, people who don't talk to me anymore, but I see their posts. My own family who knows that Goldman Sachs and central bankers are bad people are very much racing to embrace Mark Carney simply because he's not Donald Trump. Even if you highlight that there's a level of coordination between the Carney regime and the Trump administration, nobody wants to talk about that level of coordination, that we're mirroring the Genius Act and that we're talking about how we're going to integrate defensively and we're jumping through hoops, or at least pretending to jump through hoops that the Americans are setting before us at the same time as we're still continuing on with the elbows up nonsense. People have suspended reason for partisanship. It's so easy to hate Donald Trump. It's so easy, and people love the easy path. Wide and broad is the gate and the road that leads into perdition, and narrow is the path filled with brambles that leads to the truth. So we're not even going to deal with that guy. H. Sundberg says, do you know how many considered Colonel Williams a friend and colleague? Meanwhile, he was a cold-blooded killer. Is everyone guilty of the same thing because they associated with him? And I said, reread the OP. You're not responding to something I wrote. You must be responding to someone else. And that's the truth. I didn't write that the Carneys are guilty. I highlighted a lack of curiosity about their demonstrable associations with people like Andrew and Maxwell and the royal family more broadly. These are not controversial things, although it certainly seems to be controversial. And Gordon Anderson actually says, so release the files and we will know the truth. So I agree 100%, but I want more than the files. Crickets. Conservative, not a Trumper. Maybe real, maybe not. I don't know. It's hard to know anymore. I like verified accounts. I like ID verified accounts because at least I know I'm dealing with a real person. I'm not saying it should be mandatory. It's just all the anonymity creates this vast opportunity for people who program pathetic and scummy bots to just take advantage and get more attention than they would otherwise get. So I corrected her grammar, and then I said, and the connections are there. What they mean has never been probed, and we made the man prime minister. And Jankowski, again, another Anon account, I don't know who this is, says, well, Mark Carney was not friends with either of them. What a stupid thing to say. And I said, they're clearly associates. Are you blind? The associations are there. Look at the... You mean the kindergarten level Photoshop? Nope. Are you stupid? No, not entirely, because I've never really known how smart I am. I continue to have doubts about my intellectual capacity all the time. It's the only hope I have of actually maybe not being stupid. But there's a lot of people who are certain of their brain power that don't have any. So I hold on to my uncertainty. I think it's a good thing. The day I am certain I'm the smartest guy in the room is the day I should quit. I should throw the microphone out the window. I should smash the camera, and I should stop doing what I'm doing. Hey, Frank, if your brother is a creep, does that make you a creep? There's one picture. It's been explained. And I said there's more to it than that, as I've already stated. And it's like, it goes on. You see, now we got to make it about Jeremy McKenzie and Pierre Poilievre. And we're getting long, so let's just go back to my profile for a second, and we'll look at some of the ones that I retweeted. There's like Chalawa says, can you imagine what the liberal reaction would be if the Poilievres were in those pictures instead of Carney's? I absolutely can. I said, yes, I can. The response would be completely different if it was the Poilievres hobnobbing with Ghislaine Maxwell. I know it would be. And I'm very critical of the Conservative Party. I'm critical of Poilievre. I'm critical of their approach because I'm trying to find the truth, but I can also tell the truth about how I see it. There's a concerted effort to undermine Pierre Poilievre from every single angle and from within the Conservative Party. I've said this from day one. I don't know why. Some people think it's a psyop. I don't know. I don't think it's a psyop. I think Poilievre it's kind of an indicator of where we're at, that if Poilievre, since the election, is that big a threat, as nerfball as the Conservative Party can be, how deep does this go? If he's that legitimate a threat, all the forces of the bureaucracy have to turn against him. But I don't really want to get into that too much. There was one more. Vulgar, base, evil. Whether real or programmed by someone else, there are demons manifest in flesh that desire this as humanity's output. There is no motive end that can justify it. This is in response to a guy with a name, at least. But he says, a tiny orange D sucker has appeared. He's referring to me. The level of vitriol, the absolute scumbaggery of it, the dirty filth of it. It's like, why can't we just disagree? Why can't people just talk to you? I really worry that bots are designed to discourage conversation and also to overwhelm people who might be new to influence. Like, say you've come online, you've only been online, like I've been in the trenches for 10 years on and off, but you've only been online for 3 months or 6 months, and you produce a viral video, and then you encounter this, and people are accusing you of every crime and moral misbehavior in the book. I shouldn't say people, bots are. If you've been, and this is a flaw that I've also been thinking a lot about when it comes to how I'm raising my children, because I'm raising my children to be reasonable. I'm raising my children to be conversational. I'm raising my children to have open minds. And I have to also incorporate some level of preparation for this world that they're going to come into when they finally get on here. And, they have very restricted access to tablets because I can read science and I understand. They're probably not going to have smartphones for a long, long time, but I have to prepare them for their interaction with this toxic hostility so that it doesn't completely demoralize them. Because I'm thinking about the poor person who's just, and you see it all the time, where somebody just puts their thoughts online, just a genuine, beautiful person coming into adulthood, and they absolutely get destroyed by the internet and the toxicity of the internet because they take it as real. Because they've either been raised to take people at face value, or they've been raised in the real world, and when they drop into the internet, they find out it's this toxic, hostile place, and it absolutely destroys their self-esteem and their will to communicate. And that's the big problem I see, and I think the lion's share of this behavior can be explained by people trying to discourage and dissuade people from having independent thought. But more subtly, and on the other side of it, is that it just discourages conversation. If you can influence people to just start cursing and swearing and name calling instantaneously whenever they see something online that they don't like, it's the death of conversation. It's the death of a back and forth. And unfortunately, it's the death of the truth, which is somewhere down the middle. I often describe the quest. I'll finish with this, that there's the right and there's the left. There's these two sides of the argument. Whether it's a false dichotomy or not, set that aside for a minute. In the middle is the no man's land. If you picture it like a line of armies shooting each other, nobody wants to be standing in the middle, but that's where more people need to be. More people need to be in the middle. But if you're going to be in the middle, you're taking fire from all sides, and they're all going for headshots. They're trying to demoralize you so intensely that you just walk away. And I got to admit, sometimes it comes close to working on me. And I understand it, or at least I think I understand it to a certain degree. At any rate, I think people should be encouraged to have curiosity about any known associations with these power brokers who so often end up being caught in some of humanity's most heinous crimes. I'm Frank Vaughn. I'll see you in the next one. Did you know that I have a website, frankvaughn.ca, the ultimate repository for all of my work, and a backup location just in case the censors come for me again? And if you like the content, please consider using the donate link in one of the options available. There are no paywalls, there is no advertising, and there is no Patreon, and I intend to keep it that way. Thank you for your time and your consideration.